Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on the weekend. I hope you're all having a good Saturday so far. I'm going to enjoy the bank holiday weekend over here in the UK or wherever you are in the world, even if you don't maybe not have a bank holiday in the long weekend that we've got over here. And it's going to be sunny as well. And believe me, it's been a long time coming for that over here. Anyway, enough about the weather. Although that is a very, very English thing to say. Let's talk about football, shall we? And let's talk about transfers. Let's face it, that's what we're into now. It is transfer season. The actual football has stopped, certainly at club level. Anyway, we've got the Euros coming up very, very soon. But there's plenty going on when it comes to the transfer market. Things are beginning to move now after a little bit of a quiet few days after the end of the Premier League season. But things are certainly beginning to move at Arsenal. And at the moment, it's revolving around outgoings rather than incomings. That will change at some point, but I think Arsenal, given the size of the squad, given the fact there's no European competition next season, getting players out the door, moving people on, reducing that squad size, and then adding to it is going to be the kind of theme, I would say, certainly for the first little bit of the transfer window. And there's plenty to discuss in terms of possible outgoings. And we'll start with Granit Xhaka. Now, this is a really interesting one, this one. Granit Xhaka obviously has many detractors. He divides the fan base. Some love him, some can't stand him. Some will be happy to see him go. Some want him to stay. At the moment, it could well be that he is on his way out. Roma and Jose Mourinho do want Granit Xhaka. And there is a belief over in Italy that they can get this deal done for Granit Xhaka. Price is certainly going to be an issue at the moment because Roma want to pay under £15 million or around the £15 million mark, according to sources over in Italy. But I can't imagine that is going to be enough to tempt Arsenal into doing business. Now, I don't know what price tag Arsenal have set on Xhaka, if they even have set a price tag on Xhaka. But £15 million to me does not sound enough for a player who's a Switzerland international captain. He's in his prime. He's still got 2 years left on his contract. And he is an absolutely integral part of Mikel Arteta's side. So for me, I just feel like 15 million is not enough. I think you've certainly got to be getting to it around the 20 million mark for Arsenal to think about this one. It is a really, really big call. We all know Arsenal need to have a big shake-up. When Mikel Arteta has said the club needs to be ruthless, and this is certainly being ruthless if they do agree to let Granit Xhaka go, because despite his faults, and he's got plenty of faults, we know that, he's still a massively important part of this Arsenal side. When he doesn't play, Arsenal aren't as good. It's as simple as that. He's so key to how they play, receiving the ball from deep, playing the ball forward. He's a massively important part of this side. He's, pretty much an ever-present name on the team sheet if he's fit and available. That's how important he is to Mikel Arteta, and Mikel Arteta loves him as well. But having said all that, Granit Xhaka has been here an awful long time. Arsenal have never really challenged for the title with him in the side. And if you're going to shake things up, if you're going to turn things around at Arsenal, if you're going to try and bring the club back up to competing towards the top, then you have to change the team. And you've got to say Granit Xhaka has been part of this team that has completely failed to achieve at times. And that's not saying he's not a good player, because I think he is a good player. And he's, as I said, he's a very important player. But I think if you're going to improve, then you need to make big decisions. And you need to change things around. And if Arsenal are going to bring in another central midfielder this summer, which we all expect they will do, to play alongside Thomas Partey, then that will be in place of Granit Xhaka. And so it's a big, big call. But as I said, when Granit doesn't play, Arsenal are not as good at the moment because he is that important. And so selling him is going to be massive, because if you get it wrong, if you sell him and your replacement doesn't work or anything like that, then suddenly you're looking at Arsenal being worse off in central midfield next season, because you've got this big Granit Xhaka-shaped void in the heart of the midfield, which we've seen when he doesn't play is very noticeable, despite all the reservations a lot of people have about him. So it's a really big call, this one, for Arsenal, and it'll be an interesting one if they do agree to sell Xhaka, and Arsenal want these sort of outgoings to be done relatively quickly so they know what they need to do this summer. And Roma certainly do think that they've got a chance of getting Xhaka. If you sell him, then you're going to have to get that replacement right, and you need to get enough money in as you possibly can to try and get that replacement right. Now, we've spoken about possible central midfield targets before. We know Yves Bissouma at Brighton is one of them. There will be other targets as well. And yeah, it's just a really interesting one. I think we all expected a lot of players to go this summer, but the first sort of big story, I'm not sure any of us really expected it was going to be Granit Xhaka, but Mourinho likes him and he thinks he can make a big impact in Italy. And I have to say, I think Xhaka would be a fantastic central midfielder in Serie A. Just that little bit of a slower pace to the game over in Italy, I think would suit Granit Xhaka well. We've seen when he plays against Italian teams in Europe, he's been very, very good. I remember back to those 2 legs against AC Milan in the Europa League in Unai Emery's first season. In charge of Arsenal, he was, very, very. Was it Emery? No, I think that was Arsene Wenger's final season actually against Milan. I can't quite remember, but Xhaka was really, really good in those 2 games. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting call. I'm sure. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, I'm really interested on it. Should Arsenal part ways with Granit Xhaka this summer? If so, how much should they want from Roma to get this deal done? But as it stands, the valuation is going to be a key to this. Roma think they can get him. Xhaka, as I understand, is open to a move away from Arsenal. 2 years left on his contract. Hasn't started talks over a new deal. So you can understand Arsenal as well thinking maybe this is the time is right to sell Granit Xhaka. But they're going to have to come together and get this price tag sorted out for what is a very, very important player, as I've said. So 15 million for me just doesn't quite feel enough. Okay, let's talk a little bit about incomings and just some speculation that's been around a couple of reports. Now, Sami Mokbel, fantastic reporter over at the Daily Mail, has written a story last night that went out on Manchester City saying that Raheem Sterling and Riyad Mahrez could well be made available for transfer by Manchester City this summer, and that Arsenal are interested in both players. Now, Sammy's report also did say that Arsenal could well struggle to raise the funds to sign these sort of players because you would expect Manchester City are not going to let either of them go very cheaply at all. But certainly interesting in Raheem Sterling, not had the best of seasons by his own standards when it comes to Manchester City this season. Found his place, certainly not a regular. You wouldn't expect he's going to start tonight, for example, in the Champions League final against Chelsea. That's how he's sort of fallen down the pecking order a little bit this season under Pep Guardiola. And Manchester City could be open to letting him leave as they plan quite a big rebuild themselves this summer. And Arsenal, as I said, being linked by Sami Mokbel as holding an interest. Now, I don't know anything about this myself. It's just a very interesting story that I saw, and I'd love to get your opinions on it. Do Arsenal need Raheem Sterling? Should that be something they could go for if they could somehow get the money together to be able to afford it? Would Sterling want to come to Arsenal? That's another thing, given there's not even got a European football to offer at the moment. But you look at Nicolas Pepe, he's found his form now. Potentially there is that spot over on the left hand side where you could think Arsenal might look to make an improvement, but then you've got Bukayo Saka, who's been playing very well on the right, so you can play Pepe on the left. It's going to be an interesting one if Arsenal do look to bring in another wide-sided attacker this summer. But, as I said, according to Sammy over at the Mail, Raheem Sterling is a potential target should they somehow manage to get the money together to make that one happen. Right, and back to outgoings again. Hector Bellerin, this is an interesting one. Now, I think we're all expecting Hector to go. It's widely known at Arsenal that he will be allowed to leave this summer if a deal can be done with a club. Could have left last year. Mikel convinced him to stay one more year. Did that. Found his place out of the team really by the end of the season. Callum Chambers, first choice right back. Cedric had even got ahead of him at times. So the feeling there's 2 years left on his contract. The time is right for all parties to move on, and Bellerin is already sort of looking at possible new clubs and his representatives, and one of those is at Real Betis. Now, my understanding of it is that his representatives did hold talks with Betis this week on Wednesday over in Spain. Betis are keen to get this deal done for Hector Bellerin, but money is going to be a big issue in this one. As far as I understand it, Betis are keen on a loan deal for Bellerin. Arsenal understandably want money, they want to sell. Well, loan deal you think doesn't really work for Arsenal on this one. What would be the point? You just loan him for a year, he just runs down another year of his contract. If he doesn't have a great year with Betis, suddenly he's back next summer. It just doesn't really work out. We've seen the issues they've had with players like Torreira who haven't really done it out on loan. So those loan deals haven't really worked for them. Arsenal need to get Bellerin off the books. They want to sign a right back this summer. We know that. It doesn't look like it's going to be Hakimi, who I'm sure you've seen now being very heavily linked with the likes of Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich and Chelsea for around 60 million as well. So I think that's certainly a price tag that puts Arsenal out of the equation for Hakimi. but they will be looking to bring in a right back, and they need to get Bellerin out the door, and doing it on loan just doesn't really make sense too much to me, and money is certainly going to be a big issue with this one. Apparently Betis also struggling to come to terms with the wage demands of Bellerin, which from what I understand it is around £3.5 million a year, which is a bit less than what he's on at Arsenal at the moment. But for a club like Betis, who I understand are very cash strapped themselves, that's an awful lot of money, and it's money that's going to struggle to be able to afford. So a little bit of talk and negotiation still to be done on that one. I'm not saying I wouldn't say it's close to being done or anything like that with Betis, because as I said, money is they're going to have to find it from somewhere if they're going to get this deal done, and loan deal just doesn't really do it for me. Okay, let's talk about Willian, shall we? Everyone's favourite Arsenal player. Been lots of stories about him recently. He has been linked with a return to Chelsea even this summer. So what's the deal with Willian? Well, as far as I understand it, that Chelsea thing is obviously, as I'm sure we all could see when you saw the links, that's just not going to happen. Chelsea didn't want to keep him last summer. Well, they did, but they only wanted to give him a 2-year contract. Willian wanted a 3. That's why he ended up leaving and coming to Arsenal. He did give him the 3-year contract. But Chelsea, as far as I'm aware, that's just an absolute no-go in terms of Willian going back to Chelsea. He may well want it himself, but it's not something that's really on the table. It could well be that he leaves this summer, though. I think there's an understanding between all parties that this has not been a good year for Willian, and there is a potential for him to leave should a deal be done with some club. But as far as I'm aware, nothing is close with Willian. There is no sort of one club ahead of any other in trying to get a deal done for him. Whether Arsenal would want money for him, I don't know. Has he been so bad in his first year that you just think, let's sod it, get the money off the wage bill and let him go for free? We all know Arsenal got a good track record when it comes to letting players go for free, and I think Willian's been such a disaster of a signing that it could well be that they just think, let's just cut our ties, cut our losses early, get him off the books, get his wages off the book, and forget about a transfer fee if it helps get him out the door. Inter Miami over in MLS in America have been linked. David Beckham's club, obviously. Whether that's something that could well happen, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But certainly something to keep an eye on whether Willian goes. But as far as Chelsea links go, it's just one that I don't see it happening at all. In terms of other outgoings, we'll have to wait and see. In terms of Guendouzi and Torreira, those ones are ongoing. Saw Guendouzi's very public message of support to Unai Emery after the Europa League win on Thursday night for Villarreal. Almost a come and get me, please. Sort of look at that. It's like, I'm available, boss. Bring me over to Villarreal, please. I don't think, I haven't heard anything to suggest that actually is possible, but that's the first thing that I thought when I saw those messages on social media from Matteo to Unai Emery. But Arsenal want to get something sorted with him as quickly as possible. There is no real future for Matteo Guendouzi at Arsenal. I think we know that relationship between him and Mikel Arteta has been burned. He's only got a year left in his contract. That contract's not going to be extended. He's not going to sign because he knows he's not going to play. So you've got to try and find a decent club for him this summer. Marseille have been heavily linked over in France for Guendouzi. We'll have to see if anything materialises with that one. It's a similar story for Lucas Torreira. He's been talking about his future. At the moment, he says that I've still got 2 years left on his contract. There's a chance I could go back to Atletico, but at the moment I'm an Arsenal player, so we'll have to wait and see. He certainly seems to have toned down his language a little bit, whereas you go back sort of 6 months and he was talking about Boca Juniors very publicly, saying how he wanted to go there. He hoped that Arsenal could get a deal done, almost trying to force Arsenal into allowing him to move. It seems like he's toned that language down a bit. Obviously, at the time he was saying that, it was very emotional. His mother had just died. And he was talking about going back to be closer to his family. Mikel Arteta, soon after that, kind of said, look, now's not the time to talk. Let's wait till the summer. Let's talk to Lucas and see how things go. And so Arsenal are going to have to work out what they want to do with Lucas. Can they get any sort of offers in for him that are tempting to get him off the books? If they can, then I'm sure they would let him go. I can't imagine they're going to get anything close to what they brought in for him from Sampdoria. They certainly wouldn't be able to do that with Boca Juniors because of their money issues. But if Arsenal could maybe set something up somewhere else in Spain or in Italy and get some sort of transfer fees, they would. But we'll have to wait and see when it comes to Lucas Torreira. Who knows, he might even come back next summer or this summer and try and play his way into the contention for the first team at Arsenal. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Alright, that's about it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please do, wherever you are around the world, in the UK, enjoy this bank holiday weekend. It's going to be sunny, get out there, have a few drinks, watch the Champions League final, and hopefully, fingers crossed, laugh at Chelsea losing, because let's face it, none of us are Manchester City fans, but I all think we want to see Manchester City win this one. Until next time, everyone, have a good day. I'll speak to you soon.